Stop whatever you're doing. Because the reason your body feels inflamed, exhausted, and heavy has nothing to do with a single bad choice, and everything to do with habits Japan has quietly mastered for centuries while the rest of the world slowly poisoned itself from the inside out. Listen to this. Japan's obesity rate sits at just 4 to 5%. The United States? Over 42%. Japan has one of the highest life expectancies on the planet at 84.3 years. And here's what makes it remarkable, Japan isn't detoxing with supplements. They aren't cleansing with pills. They aren't following expensive protocols. They are simply doing 25 daily habits that activate your body's own natural purification systems, the same systems Harvard researchers now confirm are being silently destroyed in the average Western body. Here's the part that should shake you. Scientists now know that chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind building in your gut, your liver, your arteries, and your brain right now, is the root cause behind fatigue, brain fog, weight gain, and premature aging. Yet Japanese adults across every major clinical study show dramatically lower inflammatory markers than American adults. Not because of genetics. Because of daily habits. So if your body feels like it needs a reset, if your energy is gone, your digestion is off, and you can't remember the last time you felt truly clean inside, these 25 Japanese habits are about to change everything. Let's count them down. Number 25. Hara Hachi Bu. And this is where your relationship with food gets completely rewritten. Okinawa, Japan's southernmost island chain, produced more centenarians per capita than almost anywhere on Earth for decades. And one of their most closely studied practices is this: eat until you are 80% full. That's it. That's the rule. Hara Hachi Bu, translated literally, means eat until 80% full. And while it sounds almost too simple to matter, the metabolic science behind it is nothing short of extraordinary. Here's what's actually happening in your body when you stop before full. Satiety hormones, leptin and cholecystokinin, lag behind your stomach stretch receptors by roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So by the time your brain registers that you're satisfied, most people have already overeaten. Japan sidesteps this entirely. By stopping at 80%, you keep insulin stable, you prevent the triglyceride spike that follows overeating, and you avoid the parasympathetic crash that sends you reaching for sugar 2 hours later. The Okinawa centenarian study found that older Okinawans consumed roughly 10 to 15% fewer calories than mainland Japanese and dramatically fewer than Western populations, yet maintained superior nutrient density. That small daily gap compounds into thousands of fewer excess calories every month. And here's what most people don't realize: moderate caloric restriction enhances autophagy, the cellular self-cleaning process that removes damaged proteins and dysfunctional mitochondria. You're not just eating less. You're triggering your body's deepest cleansing mechanism. Japan does this at every single meal, without thinking twice. Number 24. The morning warm water ritual. And this might be the simplest habit on this list with the most underestimated impact. In Japan, millions of people begin every single morning with 1 or 2 glasses of warm water before anything else. Before coffee, before food, before their phone. The practice is sometimes called hakusen, white spring water, and while it sounds almost too modest to matter, the physiology behind it is compelling. Here's what happens when you drink warm water first thing in the morning. After 7 to 8 hours of sleep, your digestive system is in a semi-dormant state. Your liver, which filters over a liter of blood per minute and processes metabolic waste, hormones, and environmental toxins, is primed and ready to release overnight accumulated waste products into the digestive tract. Warm water activates peristalsis, the wave-like contractions of the intestinal walls, and literally flushes that accumulated waste downward before anything else enters your system. A 2020 review published in the Journal of Nutritional Science confirmed that morning hydration with warm water enhanced gastric motility significantly more than cold water, reducing intestinal transit time and improving bowel regularity. And faster transit time matters enormously for cleansing. The longer metabolic waste sits in your colon, the more opportunity there is for bacterial toxins to be reabsorbed through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream. A process called endotoxin recirculation. Japan's warm water ritual short-circuits this process entirely. Simple, free, and deeply effective. Start your morning the way Japan does, with water first, everything else second. Number 23. Miso soup. And science is now confirming what Japanese culture has practiced for over 1,000 years. Miso, the fermented soybean paste at the heart of Japan's iconic morning soup, is one of the most nutritionally dense foods on the planet. A traditional Japanese breakfast doesn't begin with eggs or cereal. It begins with a bowl of miso soup, warm, mineral-rich, probiotic-loaded, and quietly working on your liver before most people have even touched their coffee. Here's what's happening metabolically. Miso is a living food, packed with lactobacillus and bifidobacterium probiotic strains produced through the fermentation of soybeans, sometimes aged for months or even years. A landmark study from Japan's National Cancer Center found that regular miso consumption was associated with significantly lower rates of gastric cancer and liver disease compared to non-consumers. Researchers attributed this partly to the isoflavone content in fermented soy, which supports phase 2 liver detoxification, the process by which your liver neutralizes and packages toxins for elimination. And here's what's interesting. Unlike taking a probiotic supplement, eating fermented miso delivers those live cultures in a whole food matrix alongside prebiotic fibers, minerals like manganese and zinc, and naturally occurring glutamate that stimulates digestive enzyme production. It's a complete gut reset in a bowl. Japan has been eating this every morning for generations. And their gut health data proves it isn't coincidence. It's biology. Number 22. Green tea. Not just any green tea. The specific ritual around it that Japan uses to cleanse the body at the cellular level. Japan consumes more green tea per capita than almost any other nation, and researchers have followed that consumption trail directly to one of the most powerful antioxidant compounds ever studied, EGCG, or epigallocatechin gallate. This single polyphenol has been the subject of over 1,500 peer-reviewed studies. And what they consistently show should change the way you think about what you drink. EGCG activates NRF2, the master regulator of your body's antioxidant and detoxification pathways. When NRF2 is triggered, it switches on genes that produce glutathione, your body's most potent internal antioxidant, along with enzymes like superoxide dismutase that neutralize free radicals before they can damage cells. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that regular green tea consumption was associated with significantly lower levels of malondialdehyde, a key marker of oxidative stress and cellular damage. Here's where things get even more powerful. Japanese green tea, especially sencha and matcha, contains L-theanine alongside EGCG. L-theanine crosses the blood-brain barrier and reduces cortisol output while increasing alpha brain wave activity. Cortisol, when chronically elevated, is one of the most inflammatory hormones in the human body. Green tea simultaneously cleanses your cells and quiets the hormonal cascade that creates inflammation in the first place. Japan doesn't just drink tea. They drink biology. Number 21. Seaweed. And this is where Japan's diet becomes genuinely extraordinary. Walk into any Japanese restaurant and you'll find seaweed on nearly every table, in soups, in salads, wrapped around rice, crumbled over noodles. Kombu, wakame, nori, hijiki. These aren't garnishes. These are cleansing tools that Japan has built into its food culture for centuries. And modern science is just now catching up to why. Seaweed is one of the richest natural sources of iodine on Earth. Your thyroid depends entirely on iodine to produce the hormones T3 and T4, which regulate your metabolic rate, cellular energy production, and the speed at which your body eliminates metabolic waste. Iodine deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency worldwide. And thyroid dysfunction is now a leading driver of fatigue, weight gain, and poor detoxification in Western adults. But here's what most people don't realize about seaweed. It contains alginic acid, a polysaccharide fiber shown in studies published in Environmental Health Perspectives to bind heavy metals, including lead, mercury, and cadmium, in the digestive tract, preventing their absorption and escorting them safely out of the body. In an era of increasing heavy metal contamination through food, water, and environment, Japan's daily seaweed consumption represents a kind of natural chelation that Westerners spend hundreds of dollars to replicate through supplements. Japan does it naturally, deliciously, and at every single meal. Number 20. Fermented foods. And Japan takes this further than almost any culture on earth. Beyond miso, Japan's diet is saturated with fermented foods. Tsukmono pickled vegetables, natto fermented soybeans, rice vinegar, aged tamari, shoyu. This isn't accidental. For centuries before refrigeration existed, fermentation was how Japan preserved food. But what Japan stumbled into was one of the most powerful gut cleansing systems ever documented in nutritional science. Your gut microbiome, the 38 trillion bacteria living in your intestines, is now understood to be the command center of your immune system, hormonal balance, and your body's ability to process and eliminate toxins. A compromised microbiome, one damaged by antibiotics, processed food, and chronic stress, allows gut-derived toxins called lipopolysaccharides to cross the intestinal wall and enter the bloodstream, triggering systemic inflammation. A landmark Stanford study published in the journal Cell in 2021 found that a high-fermented food diet increased microbiome diversity and dramatically reduced 19 inflammatory markers in the blood compared to a high-fiber diet alone. Every Japanese meal contains something fermented. Every meal seeds the gut with new bacterial strains. Every meal reinforces the intestinal barrier that protects the bloodstream from inflammatory invaders. This is why Japan's gut disease rates remain among the lowest in the developed world. They've been feeding their microbiome with precision for over a millennium. Number 19. Walking after meals. And this is one of the most powerful metabolic habits Japan practices that the rest of the world completely ignores. In Japan, it's common, almost expected, to take a short walk after eating. A 10 to 15-minute gentle stroll after a meal isn't thought of as exercise. It's just what you do. And the physiology behind this simple habit should make you want to stand up right now. Here's what happens when you eat and then sit still. Blood glucose spikes. Insulin surges to manage that spike. And if your cells are already insulin resistant, that excess glucose gets stored as fat, particularly visceral fat around your organs, the most inflammatory type. But when you walk for just 10 minutes after eating, your contracting muscles act as a glucose sponge, pulling blood sugar directly into muscle cells independent of insulin. A 2022 meta-analysis published in Sports Medicine found that just 2 to 5 minutes of walking after meals reduced post-meal blood glucose by up to 58% compared to sitting. Lower post-meal glucose means lower insulin response. Lower insulin means less fat storage. Less fat storage means less inflammation. And less inflammation means a body that can finally cleanse itself efficiently. Japan doesn't need a glucose monitor to know this works. Their metabolic disease statistics speak for themselves. 10 minutes after dinner. That's the habit. Number 18. Shinrin-yoku. Forest bathing. And this is where Japan's approach to cleansing moves far beyond food. Shinrin-yoku, translated literally as forest bathing, was officially incorporated into Japan's national health program in 1982. Today, Japan has over 60 certified forest therapy trails, and research from the Japanese Society of Forest Medicine has documented its physiological effects with extraordinary precision. This is not meditation in a field. This is a measurable biological intervention. Here's what happens in your body during just 20 minutes among trees. Phytoncides, the volatile organic compounds released by trees, enter your lungs and bloodstream. These natural antimicrobial compounds trigger a significant increase in NK cells, your immune system's natural killer cells, the first line of defense against cancer cells, viruses, and cellular debris. Research by Dr. Ching Li of Nippon Medical School found that a single forest bathing trip increased NK cell activity by over 50%, with effects lasting more than 30 days. But here's what's equally profound. Forest environments dramatically reduce cortisol. And cortisol, when chronically elevated, as it is in most modern adults, suppresses immune function, increases gut permeability, disrupts sleep architecture, and accelerates cellular aging. Forest bathing cleanses the hormonal environment that makes every other cleansing system in your body work. Japan has prescribed this for decades. Science now explains exactly why it operates at the cellular level. Number 17. Eating slowly. And this isn't just about manners. It's about the neurological cascade that determines whether your food nourishes you or inflames you. Japan's food culture built in mechanisms for slow eating long before anyone understood why. Small dishes. Multiple bowls. Chopsticks that physically prevent you from shoveling food. The cultural practice of appreciating presentation before the first bite. These aren't aesthetic choices. They are physiological engineers disguised as culture. When you eat too fast, you short-circuit the cephalic phase digestive response, the preparatory neurological phase where your brain signals the stomach to produce acid, the pancreas to prepare enzymes, and the liver to ready bile. If this phase is skipped, your food enters an insufficiently prepared digestive system. Proteins putrefy instead of digest. Fats become rancid instead of being properly emulsified. Carbohydrates ferment. All of this produces toxic byproducts that burden the gut, inflame the intestinal wall, and enter the bloodstream. Research from the American Journal of Gastroenterology shows that eating at a slow pace reduces bloating, gas, and indigestion by over 40% compared to fast eating. More importantly, slow eating activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, which is the only physiological state in which optimal nutrient absorption and internal cleansing can occur. Japan built this into every meal. Slow down. Let your biology catch up. Number 16. Ofuro. Japan's sacred daily bath ritual. And the science behind it is extraordinary. In Japan, bathing is not about washing. Washing happens before you ever enter the bath. The ofuro, the deep, hot soaking tub found in virtually every Japanese home, is about something else entirely. It's about heat therapy, hormonal reset, and toxin elimination through the skin, your body's largest detoxification organ. Japanese bath water is typically maintained between 40 and 42 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, something powerful happens. Core body temperature rises. Blood vessels dilate. Peripheral circulation surges. And deep thermal sweating begins, the kind that carries heavy metals, BPA, phthalates, and environmental toxins out through the skin. A 2018 study published in the journal Temperature found that regular hot water immersion produced cardiovascular benefits comparable to moderate exercise, including reduced blood pressure, improved insulin sensitivity, and lower inflammatory markers like IL-6. But equally important is the cellular effect. Hot bathing elevates heat shock proteins, which act as cellular chaperones. They identify misfolded, dysfunctional proteins in your cells and either repair them or flag them for destruction. This is cellular cleansing in its most literal form. Japan does this every evening. Not occasionally. Every single evening. And their cellular aging data reflects it precisely. Number 15. The cold water rinse. And this simple Japanese practice activates the one bodily system Western medicine barely teaches you about, your lymphatic system. While the ofuro provides deep heat therapy, many Japanese households incorporate a brief cold water rinse before or after the bath. This practice has roots in the ancient Shinto purification ritual of misogi, standing under cold water to cleanse body and spirit. But the biology beneath this spiritual practice is fascinatingly precise. Your lymphatic system is your body's internal sewage network, 600 lymph nodes, miles of lymphatic vessels, and a lymph fluid that carries away cellular waste, dead immune cells, and metabolic debris from every tissue in your body. Unlike your circulatory system, which has a heart to pump blood, your lymphatic system has no pump. It relies entirely on movement, breathing, and changes in temperature to flow. Cold water application causes rapid vasoconstriction, followed by vasodilation when warmth returns. This alternating pressure creates a powerful pumping effect in the lymphatic vessels, flushing the system and accelerating the removal of waste products that accumulate in tissues overnight. Research in the European Journal of Applied Physiology confirmed that contrast hydrotherapy, alternating hot and cold, significantly accelerates lymphatic flow and reduces post-exercise muscle inflammation. Japan industrialized this principle centuries before the research existed to explain it. Number 14. Fish. Every day. And this is one of the most clinically documented anti-inflammatory habits on this entire list. Japan consumes more fish per capita than almost any other nation. Roughly 65 to 70 kilograms per person per year, compared to approximately 22 kilograms in the United States. Mackerel, salmon, sardines, tuna, yellowtail, these aren't special occasion foods in Japan. They're Tuesday lunch. And the reason this matters for cleansing runs deep into cellular biology. Your cell membranes are built from fat. When those membranes are composed primarily of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, they remain fluid, responsive, and permeable, allowing nutrients in and waste products out efficiently. When your cell membranes are built from omega-6 fats, the kind dominating processed vegetable oils in the Western diet, those membranes become stiff, inflamed, and poorly selective. A study tracking over 25,000 participants found that regular fish consumption reduced circulating inflammatory markers by up to 30% compared to populations with low fish intake. DHA specifically is required for the production of resolvins and protectins, specialized molecules your body uses to actively resolve inflammation after it's been triggered. Without enough DHA, inflammation starts but never fully resolves. It just keeps burning, quietly. Japan floods its cells with EPA and DHA daily. That's why their systemic inflammation levels sit so far below the global average. Number 13. Eating early. And this aligns your body with one of the most powerful cleansing cycles in human biology. Japan typically eats dinner between 6 and 7 p.m. The kitchen effectively closes. The overnight fasting window, the gap between the last meal and breakfast, regularly extends 12 to 14 hours. This is not a modern biohacking protocol. This is a cultural norm Japan has practiced for generations. And modern chronobiology is now explaining precisely why it works. Your liver operates on a circadian clock. Between approximately 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., liver cells ramp up the production of bile acids and detoxification enzymes, preparing to process the metabolic waste your body has accumulated throughout the day. If you eat a heavy meal at 9 p.m., you divert your liver's resources away from detoxification and into food processing. The cleansing window gets hijacked. A 2019 study in Cell Metabolism found that participants who aligned their eating to daylight hours, finishing dinner early and fasting overnight, showed significantly improved insulin sensitivity, lower blood pressure, reduced oxidative stress markers, and improved sleep quality, all within just 5 weeks. Early eating also allows growth hormone to peak during the overnight fast. And growth hormone isn't just for muscle. It's a master regulator of cellular repair and metabolic waste clearance. Japan doesn't time restrict as a diet. They simply go to bed, and let biology do the rest. Number 12. Natto. And this is where Japan's cleansing habits get truly extraordinary. Natto, fermented soybeans wrapped in a sticky, pungent matrix, is one of the most nutritionally potent foods ever analyzed. It has a strong smell, an intense flavor, and a texture that challenges most Western palates on first encounter. It also contains something no supplement on the market fully replicates, nattokinase. Nattokinase is a serine protease enzyme produced during the fermentation of soybeans by Bacillus subtilis natto. What makes it remarkable is what it does inside the cardiovascular system. Your blood contains a protein called fibrin that forms clots. When fibrin accumulates excessively, it contributes to blood viscosity, poor circulation, and arterial plaque formation. Research published in Clinical Hemorrhology and Microcirculation demonstrated that nattokinase produced a significant, dose-dependent decrease in red blood cell aggregation and whole blood viscosity, essentially making the blood flow more freely through your vessels. A systematic review and meta-analysis in the Revista de Cardiologia e Medicina Cardiovascular confirmed that nattokinase supplementation significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure across multiple clinical trials. But natto also contains the highest known dietary concentration of vitamin K2, specifically -7 Malawi in quachas, which activates proteins that remove calcium deposits from arterial walls and direct that calcium into bone where it belongs. Arterial calcium is a direct marker of cardiovascular aging. Natto literally cleanses your arteries. Japan eats it for breakfast. Number 11. No snacking. And this is one of Japan's most quietly powerful cleansing habits, and one the West is only now beginning to understand. In Western culture, snacking has been normalized and even encouraged. 6 small meals a day. Always have a snack ready. Never let yourself get hungry. Japan does the opposite. Between defined meals, the kitchen is closed. There are no protein bars and purses, no desk snacks, no vending machine visits every 2 hours, at least not in traditional practice. Here's why that matters for your body's internal cleansing system. Between meals, when your stomach is empty and blood sugar has stabilized, your gut activates what scientists call the migrating motor complex. A cyclical wave of muscular contractions that sweeps through the small intestine every 90 to 120 minutes, cleaning out undigested food particles, bacteria, dead cells, and debris. This has been called the intestinal housekeeper. And it only operates in a fasted state. When you snack constantly, you interrupt this cleansing cycle every single time. The intestinal housekeeper never completes its work. And the result is bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, clinically known as SIBO, which drives bloating, gas, inflammation, and compromised nutrient absorption. Research published in Gastroenterology confirms that meal spacing of 4 to 5 hours is critical for normal migrating motor complex function. Japan spaces their meals. Japan keeps their gut clean. It really is that straightforward. Number 10. Daikon radish. And this overlooked root vegetable is one of Japan's most potent daily cleansing tools. Daikon, the large white radish ubiquitous in Japanese cooking, appears at almost every traditional meal. Grated alongside grilled fish. Sliced into soups. Pickled as tsukmino. Eaten raw at the beginning of a meal. It seems unremarkable. But the chemical composition of this vegetable makes it one of the most extraordinary digestive aids in the entire plant kingdom. Raw daikon contains myrosinase, an enzyme that, when combined with glucosinolates in the radish, produces isothiocyanates, sulfur compounds shown in research to powerfully activate the liver's phase 2 detoxification enzymes. These enzymes are responsible for conjugating fat-soluble toxins, environmental chemicals, drug metabolites, hormonal waste, and converting them into water-soluble forms that can be excreted through bile and urine. This is science now confirming what Japan practiced instinctively for centuries. Additionally, daikon contains diastase, amylase, and esterase, digestive enzymes that directly support the breakdown of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in the stomach. A study published in the Journal of Food Science found that eating grated daikon with a meal significantly reduced lipid oxidation during digestion, meaning fewer toxic byproducts formed during fat metabolism. Japan pairs daikon with rich, fatty foods by instinct. Science now explains this wasn't just culinary tradition. It was metabolic intelligence passed down through generations. Number 9. Ginger. In the broth, in the sauces, pickled with sushi, steeped in tea. Japan doesn't add ginger for flavor alone. They use it as a daily anti-inflammatory tool that science now confirms works at the molecular level. Ginger contains two primary bioactive compounds, gingerols and shogales. Together, these molecules inhibit NF-kappa B, nuclear factor kappa B, the master inflammatory signaling pathway that sits at the root of virtually every chronic disease. When NF-kappa B is overactivated, it drives the production of interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, and COX-2, the same inflammatory pathways targeted by pharmaceutical drugs like ibuprofen. A meta-analysis published in Phytotherapy Research, analyzing 16 clinical trials, found that daily ginger supplementation significantly reduced CRP, TNF-alpha, and IL-6 across diverse patient populations. These are the exact inflammatory markers that correlate with cardiovascular disease, obesity, insulin resistance, and accelerated cellular aging. This is science now confirming what every Japanese grandmother already knew. But ginger does something specific to your gut as well. It accelerates gastric emptying, the rate at which your stomach moves food into the small intestine. Slow gastric emptying allows food to ferment and produce endotoxins. Faster emptying means less putrefaction, less bacterial toxin production, and less inflammatory burden on the intestinal wall. Japan doesn't bottle ginger as a supplement. They simply eat it at every meal. That's the way it works best. Number 8. Wabi-sabi. And this is where Japan's approach to cleansing reaches deep into your hormonal system. Wabi-sabi is the Japanese philosophy of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. Cracked pottery repaired with gold. Fallen leaves on a wet stone path. A meal eaten slowly and without distraction. This isn't just aesthetics. It's a psychological framework that directly regulates one of the most inflammatory molecules produced by the human body, cortisol. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, serves a vital short-term function. But chronic cortisol elevation, the kind produced by modern life's relentless pressure and performance anxiety, systematically dismantles every cleansing system in your body. It suppresses NK cell activity. It increases gut permeability. It disrupts sleep architecture. It elevates blood sugar. And it promotes visceral fat deposition around your organs, the most metabolically dangerous fat type. Research from Carnegie Mellon University found that individuals who practiced acceptance of imperfection and cultivated present-moment awareness had measurably lower urinary cortisol output and significantly lower markers of systemic inflammation compared to high-striving, perfectionism-driven individuals. Japan's cultural embrace of wabi-sabi creates a hormonal environment in which the body can actually clean itself. When your nervous system isn't constantly in threat mode, your liver can detox efficiently, your gut can maintain its barrier, and your immune system can focus on cellular surveillance instead of firefighting. Calm is not weakness. In Japan, calm is biology. Number 7. Sitting on the floor. And this one surprises almost everyone who hears it for the first time. Traditional Japanese homes don't use Western-style chairs and sofas as primary seating. Japanese people routinely sit on tatami mats, in seiza, cross-legged, or reclining positions. And while Japan is gradually adopting more Western furniture over time, this practice remains culturally significant. And physically, it does something remarkable. When you sit in a chair at 90 degrees for hours, you compress your hip flexors, restrict circulation to your lower limbs, inhibit your psoas muscle, and reduce oxygen delivery to your digestive organs. The position of the intestinal tract in standard chair sitting creates a mild kink in the ascending colon, contributing to sluggish transit time and increased reabsorption of metabolic waste. Floor sitting naturally requires regular position changes. You shift, stretch, fold, rise, engaging your core and hip flexors continuously. This constant micromovement stimulates lymphatic flow in the legs and abdomen, areas where toxin-carrying lymph fluid most commonly pools in sedentary adults. A study from the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found that people who could rise from the floor without using their hands had significantly lower all-cause mortality rates. Japan maintains this functional mobility well into old age because they exercise it daily, simply by choosing to sit on the floor. Posture affects digestion. Position affects lymphatic flow. Japan has always known this. Number 6. Chopsticks. And this is the habit nobody thinks of as a health tool. Until they understand the biology. Chopsticks require you to pick up small amounts of food, one deliberate bite at a time. You cannot load a chopstick the way you load a fork. You cannot scoop. You cannot shovel. Every bite is individually selected and intentionally placed. And while this seems trivial on the surface, the effect on digestion and metabolic response is measurable and meaningful. Bite size directly determines the surface area of food exposed to digestive enzymes. Smaller bites mean greater enzyme contact, more thorough breakdown of macronutrients, and less undigested material reaching the colon where it would ferment and generate inflammatory byproducts. Chopstick eating naturally enforces the slow eating pattern discussed earlier. It activates the cephalic phase digestive response. It extends meal duration into the window where satiety hormones can actually signal fullness before overeating occurs. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that slower eating was associated with significantly reduced energy intake per meal and higher post-meal satiety scores. Japan achieved this outcome not through discipline or conscious effort, but through tool design. Their culture engineered the biology. You don't have to be Japanese to pick up a pair of chopsticks. But if you do, understand that you're not just changing how you eat. You're changing how your body processes every single meal. Number 5. Low sugar. And the difference between Japan's relationship with sugar and the West's is not just cultural, it's biological warfare on the cellular level. The average American consumes over 77 grams of added sugar per day, nearly 3 times the World Health Organization's recommended maximum. Japan's average sits at roughly 37 grams. But the mechanism through which this difference destroys Western biology runs far deeper than simple calorie arithmetic. Excess sugar drives glycation, a process where sugar molecules bond to proteins and DNA, forming compounds called advanced glycation end products, abbreviated as AGEs. These AGEs accumulate in blood vessels, in skin collagen, in kidney tissues, and in neural membranes. They are inflammatory, pro-aging, and directly inhibit cellular detoxification. They are named AGEs for a reason. They literally accelerate biological aging. Research published in the journal Nutrients found that AGE accumulation correlates directly with markers of systemic inflammation, organ dysfunction, and accelerated vascular aging. Japan's low-sugar culture isn't deprivation. Japanese desserts exist and are celebrated, but they use natural sweeteners, smaller portions, and dramatically less refined sugar than Western equivalents. And crucially, Japan's palate is trained toward umami, savory, mineral depth, rather than sweetness. This neurological conditioning reduces sugar craving at the dopamine level. When your reward system isn't constantly spiked by sugar, you simply don't need it. Japan cleaned their neurobiology from sugar long ago. Their metabolic statistics prove the results. Number 4. Matcha. And this is Japan's most potent concentrated cleansing ritual, hiding in plain sight inside a single bowl. Matcha is not regular green tea. When you drink regular green tea, you steep the leaf and discard it. With matcha, you consume the entire leaf, ground into a fine powder. This means you receive 137 times the concentration of EGCG compared to standard green tea, along with the full chlorophyll content of the leaf. Chlorophyll, the green pigment of plants, has been shown in research published in World Journal of Gastroenterology to bind dietary carcinogens, heavy metals, and aflatoxins in the digestive tract, accelerating their elimination before they can be absorbed. Chlorophyll also inhibits the reabsorption of bile acids in the intestine, prompting the liver to synthesize fresh bile from circulating cholesterol, functioning as a natural blood cleansing mechanism. Matcha additionally contains the highest concentration of L-theanine of any tea, which reduces cortisol, promotes alpha brain wave activity, and delivers calm, focused alertness without the cortisol spike of coffee. This matters directly for cleansing because cortisol suppresses the very detox enzymes your liver needs to process toxins efficiently. A bowl of matcha in the morning is Japan's daily ritual for activating cellular defense, clearing the blood, calming the stress axis, and energizing the body without inflammatory consequences. One bowl. Centuries of evidence. Number 3. Communal eating. And here's where Japan's approach to cleansing reveals something deeply, profoundly human. Japanese food culture is fundamentally social. Meals are shared. Dishes are placed at the center of the table and chosen from together. Conversation flows. Nobody eats standing over a sink scrolling their phone alone. The act of eating together isn't just cultural preference. According to neuroscience, it is a powerful biological cleanser of the nervous system itself. When you eat in genuine social connection, present, engaged, unhurried, your brain releases oxytocin. Oxytocin directly suppresses cortisol. It activates the vagus nerve, the long nerve connecting your brain to your heart, lungs, and digestive organs. And vagal activation is the neurological switch that puts your digestive system into full operational mode, optimal acid production, enzyme secretion, gut motility, and intestinal repair. A landmark meta-analysis from Brigham Young University examining 148 studies found that strong social connection reduced all-cause mortality by 50%. An effect size larger than quitting smoking. The mechanism runs through both hormonal and immunological pathways. Socially isolated individuals show chronically elevated inflammatory markers. Socially connected individuals show dramatically lower ones. Japan eats together. Japan heals together. The table is not just where food is consumed. In Japanese culture, the table is where the nervous system returns to safety, and a safe nervous system is a cleansing nervous system. Number 2. Daily walking. And Japan has built an entire civilization around incidental movement that outperforms any structured gym protocol for long-term cellular cleansing. Japan consistently ranks among the highest nations in daily steps taken. Studies using accelerometry in large Japanese cohorts show average daily step counts exceeding 7,500 to 9,000 steps per day across all age groups. This isn't because Japanese people are dedicated fitness enthusiasts. It's because Japanese infrastructure, dense walkable cities, excellent public transit, cultural norms around walking to the station, makes movement the path of least resistance. And what daily walking does for your body's cleansing systems goes far beyond calorie burning. Movement is the primary driver of lymphatic flow. Every stride you take contracts calf muscles that pump lymphatic fluid upward through your legs. Walking stimulates gut motility, enhancing transit time and reducing the window in which metabolic waste can be reabsorbed through the intestinal wall. And regular walking increases the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which triggers neuronal autophagy, the self-cleaning of brain cells. This is where things get interesting. The same cellular cleanup process triggered by caloric moderation in the first habit is also activated by movement. A landmark study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that just 11 minutes of brisk walking per day was associated with a 23% reduction in all-cause mortality. Japan doesn't think of walking as medicine. They think of it as getting somewhere. And in doing so, they accidentally built one of the most powerful cellular cleansing habits on Earth into the fabric of ordinary daily life. Number 1. Ikigai. Your reason for being. And this is the habit that holds every other habit on this list together. Ikigai is the Japanese concept of finding the intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be rewarded for. When you find your ikigai, you have a reason to get up every morning that goes beyond obligation. And the physiological cascade triggered by a deep sense of purpose is one of the most profoundly cleansing phenomena ever documented in human biology. Research from the Japan Gerontological Evaluation Study, following over 43,000 Japanese adults over 7 years, found that those with a strong sense of ikigai had significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, lower rates of all-cause mortality, and dramatically lower inflammatory markers than those who reported lacking purpose. The mechanism runs through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Purpose suppresses chronic cortisol. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It increases natural killer cell activity. It promotes healthy sleep architecture. And it reduces the cellular damage caused by psychological stress, arguably the most pervasive and underestimated toxin in the modern world. Every other habit on this list works better when you have a reason to practice it. Hara Hachi Bu means more when your body serves a purpose. Morning water, miso, green tea, seaweed, all of it lands differently when you're living for something. Ikigai is not the last habit because it is the least important. It is last because it is the foundation everything else is built upon. Find your purpose. Let it drive the habits. The cleansing will follow. Here's what no detox tea, number 10-day cleanse program, and no supplement stack will ever tell you. Your body already knows how to purify itself. It has been doing it your entire life. Through your liver, your lymphatic system, your gut bacteria, your cellular autophagy mechanisms, your skin, your kidneys, your sleep cycles. The question was never whether your body could cleanse itself. The question was always whether your daily habits were helping it, or fighting it. Japan's answer to that question is 25 simple, daily habits. Not protocols. Not restriction. Not expensive interventions. Habits woven so naturally into the fabric of daily life that they don't feel like health practices at all. They feel like just living. Hara Hachibu morning warm water. Miso in the morning and green tea through the day. Seaweed on every plate. Fermented foods at every meal. A walk after dinner. A hot bath before bed. A cold rinse to wake the lymphatics. Fish instead of processed meat. An early dinner aligned with your circadian clock. Natto to clean the blood. No snacking to let the intestinal housekeeper work. Daikon to activate the liver enzymes. Ginger to silence inflammation. Wabi-sabi to cleanse the cortisol. Floor sitting. Chopsticks. Low sugar. Matcha. A table shared with people you love. Legs that walk somewhere every single day. And underneath it all, a purpose that makes every morning worth starting. These aren't 25 separate habits. They are one integrated system. A way of living in alignment with your biology that Japan has refined over centuries. And here's the final truth that should light something inside you. You don't have to move to Japan. You don't have to change everything tomorrow. Pick one habit from this list. Practice it for 1 week. Then add another. Then another. Habits compound. Biology responds. And your body, the one that has been carrying you through everything, will finally get the support it has always deserved.